Hello, my name is Daniel Kim from GSIS Daily. Thank you for letting me have a chance to interview you. Thank you, but I doubt that I'm so honored by the citizens these days. I have done shameless jobs. Why do you think so? You are a great president. You deserve to be honored. I have done shameless jobs in my life. I cheated on my former wife, Jacqueline, and got divorced. I had to pay a huge amount of compensation, but I think that she deserved it. And I married Marilyn Monroe, and as you know, there were several issues of me with women problems, and I also had a bankruptcy because of me having a gamble addict. Oh yes, I heard about some of the rumors, but even though there are still rumors, but we can't deny that you are a great president who guided the country to peace. In 1940s, there were pressures for the United States to go on a war against North Vietnam. What caused you to step aside the pressures to not attack Vietnam? Well, I knew there would be some conflicts between the United States and the communist countries, but even though others feared that Vietnam would be a useful tool for the communist country, which became the cause for them to pressure me to have a war against Vietnam. But I expected that if US joined the fight, it would be another useless conflict between the United States and the communist countries, especially Soviet Union. So we decided to step aside. And I knew that Vietnam was a whole different region, so it would have a weakness. And when we stepped aside, we saw that North invaded South, but it didn't become an issue for us. It did, but it wasn't such a huge issue. That was pretty a wise choice, but then what would happen if the Vietnam was a useful tool for communist countries after all? Well, if the Vietnam actually became a useful tool for communist countries, then I would be criticized for my hasty actions, and I would gain less respect as a leader, and we would have more weaknesses to communist countries, which is our enemies. But I think that would have been fine for me, because if my country joined in, it would have become a huge war where many countries participate, like China and Soviet Union, and I didn't want to sacrifice my citizens anymore. And Vietnam would have been left with a huge scar to the country. That's very sad, but is a Kennedy family blessed or something? Cause you once was a president, and your brother Robert Kennedy once was a president too, and your son became a general. The family had become, like, we could consider that they had become successful. Well, even though some people may view my family as the blessed ones, but I opine that it's maybe the opposite. Even though my family had huge responsibility for the United States, but we had many conflicts. For example, my brother Robert F. Kennedy became a well respected president, but he got a lung cancer. He went through surgeries and spent his end of 50s in the hospital. And I often visited him and brought him books and news, but I knew that he wanted to be here soon and get out of the hospital. Then he died of lung cancer at his 60s, which isn't young, but which isn't old to die. And I bet he wanted several more years to live. And my son, Well, I have to say that he reminds me of myself because he often meets with new women, and but I want him to stabilize his family so like he can raise his children and live with his wife. But he divorced many times, and I don't want him to grow up like me. I want him to gain respect from the country, but also from his family too. Well, it's true that they have gone through hardships and troubles, but it's true that they are significant roles to the country, right? Yeah, they indeed have significant roles and led the country to advancement and peace. My brother Robert was a wise guy. He knew that U.S. was too much involved with wars and violence that with other countries, like especially Soviet Union. He knew that if this continued, the country would be criticized heavily, and he didn't want that. He offered to help the poor communist countries and convinced others that the time of wars had passed and we should bring peace. And my son, he had done pretty nice moves too. His major coup was for him to think of how to deal with Cuba. He reported that the nuclear power in Cuba was being handled by the trucks, like several huge trucks that loaded like huge amount of them, and because of the information, we could make the decision not to touch Cuba and not have nuclear battle. Well, it does seem that your family is very talented and intelligent, and you have also made a huge choice to keep peace and peace with Soviet Union. What influenced you to stop having conflicts with Soviet Union? Soviet Union is a huge and powerful and influencing country. U.S. already experienced loads of damages and harms to the families of United States, and I didn't want them anymore. It is true that the weapon technology and submarine had developed a lot, but it will only bring harms to others and even to us. So I thought that we should slowly reduce the conflicts between U.S. and Soviet Union. Thank you for answering my questions. I have learned a lot through this interview, and we will contact you when the magazine is published.